Good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome to the Borg Bunker. This is Hugh of Borg, Resistance is Not Futile podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and do all that fancy stuff in the bottom. Respond to my emails and or give me actual questions. Today, on this Thursday, the 9th of April, I want to respond to somebody who, and Carlos, thank you very much. You're actually feeding my addiction to try to do this stuff properly. But you raised some amazing responses and questions, and I'm too lazy to write it down right now. So I'm going to give it to you as a video. Okay, first off, I'm going to read this for everybody so everybody knows what we're talking about here. Carlos Leroux says, speaking of figuring things out, I would like to ask a couple of questions. While we are seeing both here and in Europe a significant redirection of resources to build ourselves up militarily, do you see any hint that we intend to have a better plan than just pour billions in order to make our own versions of the super expensive gear that the US is making? I'm going to answer this question first so I can keep on track here. With respect to this, every nation, when they go to war, fight with the weapons that they already have at hand. The inventions that happen throughout the war are part of the kinetic process of offense and defense spiraling up, and people trying to solve problems on the spot that become doctrine down the road. We are building our military, and everybody always, like all militaries, plan for the last war. Like we plan to fight the last war better. World War II was supposed to be World War I, but with better tanks and airplanes. Like going all the way through. Like we thought we're walking into this war, the United States and Israel, where the stuff that they had and their industrial approach to the warfare would be the game changer. It was not, and it cannot be, because for every offense there's a defensive countermeasure. This isn't just human. This is just a basic part of life on this rock. You have predators and prey, defense and offense, and they're all stacked against each other in constant competition, growing their way up the chain. Do we have a better plan than just pouring money into it? Okay. To build a military force, money is essential, of course, as are people. But it takes a lot of time. You have to plan for this stuff like insurance policies. You have to do this 25 years down the road, like before you're going to need it. Anytime you, like, especially with highly complex kit, like not even fighters and F-35s versus Gripen or things like that. Go Gripen. Like submarines are such an insanely complicated and demanding thing to build and so expensive. You're putting a lot of eggs in one basket. So what should we be doing better? We do not in Canada yet, that I have seen in any of the messages and contact with my buddies in National Defence, we do not see a coherent doctrine that Canada has developed about how to fight a 21st century war in the way that the modern technology wants it to be fought. I would recommend that we don't train the Ukrainians. What we do is we give the Ukrainians a whole pile of shit, so they send a few of their folks over here and train us in how to build our doctrine, the way you use the weapon systems, build our weapon systems, like show us like what is most effective, what works, what doesn't work, good points and bad points, and building the structures within Canada to maintain that. As Iran has shown us, the use of asymmetric munitions is rapidly changing the way that the entire battle space is being run. You have to go back to the introduction of the repeating firearm in order to see a similarly sized significant shift in the way that military function goes. Once you go from muzzleloaders to like Henry carbines, you now have instead of a single shot, you have got a rifle that you load on Sunday and fire all week. That is the level of difference that we're seeing with drones, except that it's a lot bigger than that, because a lot of this stuff is incredibly cheap to do and incredibly expensive to stop, as witnessed in the Gulf. and the war's not over. Next question. We couldn't have a clearer demonstration right now of the futility of piling up unruinously expensive high-tech equipment that we wouldn't dare to use lest they be damaged, destroyed by dollar store gizmos thrown at them. Absolutely correct. I would add on to that, though. We will need command and control structures, and we will need vessels and high stakes, high capability infrastructure in order to manage the battle space that we're going to be finding ourselves in the future. Like a warship, though, is not going to be like a warship of old. It might very well be like a drone carrier, either airborne or submarine. You might have some subs that are dealing with that environment. We absolutely need to invest in that. But we have to remember that the threat that we face, that we're concerned about, is probably going to hit us before it hits, before we get a chance to get a lot of this stuff online. The submarines, the Gripen, we might, as I said at the beginning, have to be fighting this on our own with the equipment that we already have. So asymmetric warfare, in our case, it might be going back very analog, very old school. Because let's be quite honest. I mean, if I get kicked off of Twitter, not that I'm bitter about it, but I just think it's kind of funny as hell. That tells me that a lot of our comms and our ability to communicate with each other that we're using and enjoying right now as I'm talking to you is going to change radically in the next little while. Okay, next question. On topic of strategy, what does that say about our general ineffectiveness as world police? Well, we are not world police because we're now living in a Mad Max world. What we have to do is we have to rebuild our power blocks. The only way that countries like Canada are going to get through this is as we were going to have to fall back on our traditional friends of alliances and soft power diplomacy to ensure that we've got enough game in the fight and friends that when bad things happen, we've got resources that we can call on. Yeah. And next, the UN is a joke. The Security Council is painfully outdated, flawed, and feckless. I will say to this what my boss, Romeo Dallaire, once told me, many times actually. The United Nations is only as good as its member states are willing to allow it to be. We've got a flawed system from the beginning in the UN where 5 major powers at that time had veto power over absolutely everything because nobody wanted to give up their shit. That is not a recipe for global success because you've got primus inter pares, first among equals, who are making all the decisions for everybody, and lesser countries don't get a say on that except when they are allowed to have a say on that. So the UN has failed. I think it's frankly failed worse than the League of Nations did in the 1920s and 30s. So we don't have an international order. The thing that has happened so far is that the United States, Russia, and Israel and various other countries have so abused the system of diplomacy that we functionally are now back to a 19th century great power conflict. We don't have the international agreements. We don't even have a friggin' Vienna conference to decide that, like it's really bad idea to invade each other. I mean, NATO was founded on the principle of basically, NATO was founded to keep America in Europe, to keep the Germans down, and to ensure that the Russians stayed out. Those days are gone, and now we're dealing with a tectonic shift in the way alliances work. We are on the cusp of building back a new system, and I think Canada is actually very well placed to play a leading role in that. But if we try to do this all by ourselves, we're falling in the same hubristic, jingoistic trap as the Americans have. And that's not good for anybody. It seems now that Canada and every European country wants to have nukes. Who are we then to say anybody else should? No, you can't. And I think of places like Taiwan that must be getting quite nervous these days about our potential ineffectiveness to intervene in a case of a hostile takeover by Japan or by China. Yeah, absolutely correct. The nuclear weapons are the absolute unmitigating horror. As a military historian, I look at this and I think to myself, throughout history, there's a theme with respect to nuclear weapons. Any country that has nuclear weapons has not been attacked by a country that doesn't have nuclear weapons. And the more that you threaten countries, the more they're looking for the keys to the kingdom that will allow them to be left the hell alone. I am now, and I hate nuclear weapons. I've done NBCW training. It friggin' sucks. It's terrifying, and there's no way out of that. That's the end of the line. That being said, given the threats of the world today, a Canadian maple bomb might be the smartest play that we make. If we don't do that, then perhaps we pre-deployed dirty bombs into the United States in various locations and let them know where one is and say, look, this is all over the country, so don't fuck with us. We're now rapidly reaching a point in time where the United States and Canada are now adversaries because the United States have gone functionally insane. We have to defend ourselves. We need to go asymmetric in order to do that because we don't have the gravitas and the forces to stand up against 300 odd million people, regardless of how stupid or whatever it is. Simply, that is a numbers game that we will not be able to win. So what we need is something asymmetric that will give us the ability to ensure that they treat us seriously. Americans do not treat Canada seriously. They do not consider us a functional nation when they consider us at all. I cite that lunatic Jess Waters and Tucker Carlson and oh God, Greg! Don't even get me started on Greg Gutfeld. I'm going to hit something. This is the mantra that the United States will gin up in order to take over Canada. I can already see the groundwork being played about that in Canada with respect to things like the Alberta Ditchbilly movement. The Alberta separatism is absolutely an astroturfed, straight out of Langley, Virginia, CIA playbook operation. They're not even using their imagination on it. It's just basically page for page. So we are under threat. What about China and Taiwan? Well, Taiwan has an advantage in that they are such a functionally important chip producer for modern electronics. There's a very good chance that China will not be able to or will not want to destroy the infrastructure. China is a power on the rise. A global power on the rise always tends to use its military force with extreme prudence and care. It's only when they are on the downslope, United States, Israel, that they get reckless and they start doing stupid micromilitarism, aggressive acts, wars of adventure, and things like what we've just witnessed over the last 40-odd days. Taiwan is going to have a rapprochement with China. The United States is functionally dying as a global power, able to dominate or dictate or manage affairs between other states. They have absolutely lost that. They still think that countries like Canada and Denmark, who they've directly threatened with invasion, are still their allies and are just pissed off with them. We've all moved on from that, of course. They don't understand that because they don't understand the world around them. You want to go back to friggin' Sun Tzu. If you understand yourself and not the enemy, you'll win 50% of the time. If you understand the enemy and not yourself, you'll win 50% of the time. If you understand neither, you always lose. This is where the United States is. They're in a death spiral. They will get desperate and they will do desperate things. As that happens, it's going to ripple out, effect across the globe, and the legacy of the 20th century Cold War peace is going to disappear. And then we're back to square one, where might makes right, and countries have to look after themselves and their own defenses. Of course, you always have to. side note, any country that every country has an army. If it's not your own, that's going to be somebody else's. So yeah, we absolutely have to get in the driver's seat on this. I would like to see a lot more administrative planning and imagination out of Department of National Defense than I've seen so far. I'd like to see us set up a drone program where we're teaching and training people in how to use and operate these things, so we've got a ready cadre of people who are capable of using talents to defend their homes. Vastly easier to fight a war through the view screen on a first-person shooter drone than it is to be ducking bullets in combat. They snap, they're loud, and it's scary. And if you can be at standoff distance for that, so much the better, especially if they're only 40 million of you and there are about 380 odd million of them. We need to maximize our forces, force multipliers. Basically, that's what it's coming back to. Anyways, Carlos, those are my thoughts for now. Thank you for giving me a muse for today, because I'm starting to write something called, and hopefully I'll have it out by tomorrow if I'm not too lazy. This one's going to be called Absurdity and Atrocity on Substack, and I'll put it on Blue Sky as well, and YouTube, of course. Anyways, you take care, my friend. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the input. You're helping me frame thoughts and focus my ideas into things that actually might possibly make coherent sense. So very much appreciate it. From the Borg Bunker, this Thursday afternoon, you have Borg out. Talk to you soon, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, and, help me with the algorithm. As I get better at this, and as I go along further with this, I'm hoping I'm going to get a little more professional with the stage management of this product, because I'm making it up as I go along. But you guys are being a great help. So thank you very much, and have a good Thursday. Talk to you tomorrow.